This Recollections Scoreboard from Michaels is a helpful paper crafting tool. It comes with a paper folder stylus that locks right onto the board for handy storage. But there's a problem. The engraved measurements virtually disappear in low light. Today I'm sharing my easy hack to fix that. Let's take a quick look at this product's features. The scoring area measures 7 by 5.5 inches. There is a ridge near the 7-inch mark, limiting the paper size. So, it's nice for smaller projects or working with 6 by 6 paper pads. It includes an instruction sheet showing how to emboss some simple designs and craft envelopes in 14 different sizes using the indentations on the flip side. Directions are printed on the board as well. Now it's time to bring those engraved lines to life. I tried different options and found overcoloring the lines and doing some cleanup works better than coloring precisely with a fine-tipped marker. So, I'm using a chisel-tipped Sharpie permanent marker to add color. To demonstrate some different techniques, I start with a broad, messy line. It's quick to place, but requires additional time to dry and more cleanup later. Then I scribble a circle into the recesses. That mostly works. I decide to take the best of both options. I trace over each of the main measuring marks, going back and forth to make a line. Then I make a circular scribble over the numbers. I kind of color in the mushroom shape or a messy T a few times and move on to the next number. Some digits take the ink better than others. I do any necessary touch-ups to make sure I can see the numbers and lines, but it doesn't have to be perfect. My goal is to get a tinge of color to improve visibility so I can easily eyeball the measurements without moving closer to the scoreboard. I want a quick reference point to save time. Now I move on to the 7-inch side. I repeat the process, coloring the measurements every 1/4 inch. One color is sufficient for me, and I opt to keep it simple with crisp black ink. With a variety of options available, you can choose a permanent marker in your signature shade or coordinate with your other craft supplies. You could use multiple colors to distinguish certain measurements. If you make A2 cards, for example, you may want to use a different color to highlight the 4.25 and 5.5 inch points. Customize your scoreboard your way. It takes only a few minutes to finish coloring over the lines on the front of the scoreboard. I touch up as needed. The fractions are compact and require a little extra attention. I repeat the same process on the envelope guide ruler, carefully avoiding the scoring channels and embossed designs so they stay crisp. As you can see, part of the ruler is already done. I did a trial run on that section before filming. There aren't as many lines, so I go ahead and color the centimeters as well. I go over any areas that need more color. The 0 measurement at the top needs extra visibility, but I avoid the score guide indicator so it doesn't distract from the numbers. If you prefer, color it in or consider using a softer color to highlight it. Once the ink's dry, I scrub the excess with the damp magic eraser. The key is to use just a little water so there is not any runny ink water spreading around. This is a little messy because the sponge shreds as it cleans. To minimize that, start with a new sponge. I use a piece of one so I can switch to a fresh edge if it starts to shred too much. As you can see, the ruler is easy to read at a glance now. This step doesn't require precision. I do not press firmly into the recess so the inked numbers remain. The front side lays flat, and I can scrub it without making the board flex. I have a lot of ink to remove on this portion because I experimented with different techniques. This is when the eraser starts to shed a lot. I can flip to a new section of the sponge as needed or switch to a fresh piece. My main goal is to remove the excess ink. I can shake the scoreboard clean later. There is some ink left behind from the wide, heavy ink line I drew in my experiment. It isn't too bad, and it may come clean more easily if using a new sponge, but you can see why that is not my preferred method. Crumbled eraser bits may get into the grooves, but it is easy to simply shake them out. See how the inked lines stand out on the crisp white background? It makes reading measurements a breeze. There's still an ink halo from my experiment with the heavy line. I can do some more fine-tuning with a fresh magic eraser to clean it up. Overall, I am happy with the result. The flip side with the envelope measurements needs a bit more finesse. This side of the scoreboard sits on those ridged edges on the front. It's designed to withstand scoring paper. This is going a bit slower because the sponge is getting too flimsy to grasp without creating a lot of shreds. I don't need to scrub as much as I did on the front because there's only a small ruler section. I hold the board while cleaning it so I don't risk pressing too hard. Here's a closer look. I need to switch to a fresh sponge, but you can see how crisp the black ruler is against the white board. I colored the 0 mark because it is a vital reference point for making envelopes. The score guide indicator doesn't need any color. I used copy weight paper to make a crisp, custom envelope. Now it's your turn. Try this hack, tag me in your creations, and subscribe for more crafty shortcuts.